The sun was barely awake when Officer Marcus Sullivan spotted her. It was 6:30 in the morning, and the courthouse parking lot was almost empty. A black woman in a nice coat walked toward the building, carrying a leather bag. She looked important, like she had somewhere to be. Marcus didn't like that. He didn't like the way she walked with her head high. He didn't like how confident she seemed. In his mind, people like her needed to remember their place. "Watch this," Marcus whispered to his partner, Officer Johnson, with a mean smile. Marcus held his cup of lukewarm coffee and stepped directly into the woman's path. She had to stop walking to avoid bumping into him. "Excuse me, officer," she said politely, try and step around him. But Marcus moved with her, blocking her way again. His smile grew wider. Then, in one quick motion, he lifted his coffee cup and poured it right onto her shoulder. The brown liquid splashed across her coat, staining the nice fabric. Some drops hit her neck and face. "Oops," Marcus said, but he wasn't sorry at all. His voice was cold and cruel. "Should have watched where you were going. Courthouse trash." The words hung in the air like poison. Officer Johnson looked down at his feet, uncomfortable. He wanted to say something, but fear kept his mouth shut. The woman didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even raise her voice. Instead, she slowly pulled out a tissue from her bag and wiped the coffee from her face. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were calm but sharp, like she was taking a picture of this moment with her mind. "Officer," she said quietly, "may I have your badge number, please?" Marcus laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "My badge number? You want my badge number?" He leaned closer, trying to scare her. "Why? So you can file a complaint that'll go straight into the trash? Lady, do you know how many people like you try to report me?" He tapped his badge with his finger. "This shield protects me, not you." The woman reached into her bag again and pulled out her phone. She kept her eyes on Marcus the whole time. "Badge number 4729, she said softly, reading the numbers on his chest. "Patrol Unit 47, 6:30 a.m., courthouse parking lot." She was memorizing everything. Marcus felt a small twist in his stomach, but he pushed it away. This woman was nobody. She couldn't touch him. "Good luck with that," he sneered. Then he turned to walk away, throwing his empty coffee cup on the ground like it was trash, just like he thought she was. Officer Johnson followed Marcus quickly, glancing back at the woman one time. Something about the way she stood there, calm and dignified, even with coffee dripping from her coat, made him feel ashamed. But he said nothing. The woman stood alone in the parking lot for a moment. The morning air was cool, and the coffee stain on her coat was still warm. She took a deep breath. Then she picked up Marcus's coffee cup from the ground, placed it carefully in a nearby trash can, and walked toward the courthouse. Her steps were measured and purposeful. She didn't rush. She didn't look angry. But something about the set of her shoulders said one thing very clearly. This isn't over. What Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't have known because he never bothered to look past the color of her skin, was that this woman wasn't just anybody. Her name was Judge Amara Williams. She was a federal judge, one of the most powerful positions in the legal system. She had been away on family medical leave, taking care of her sick mother. Today was her first day back, and Marcus Sullivan had just assaulted her. As Judge Williams walked to the courthouse doors, a psychiatrist named Dr. Michael Torres was getting out of his car. He had seen everything. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone and started typing notes about what he'd witnessed. The deliberate way the officer blocked the woman, the coffee pour, the cruel words, the badge number. Dr. Torres had worked in courthouses for 20 years. He'd seen a lot of things. But this was different. This was pure hatred wrapped in a uniform. He didn't know who the woman was yet, but he knew she would need a witness, and he would be there for her. Inside the courthouse, Judge Williams went straight to the private chambers reserved for judges. She hung up her stained coat carefully, like it was evidence, because it was. She sat at her desk and opened her computer. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. Within minutes, she had filed an official complaint. Every detail was there: the time, the location, the badge number, The exact words Marcus used, the witness who had watched from his car. But she didn't stop there. Judge Williams had spent her whole career fighting for justice. She knew how the system worked. She knew that one complaint might disappear. She knew that officers like Marcus often had powerful friends. So she started digging deeper. She searched through police records she had legal access to as a federal judge. And what she found made her heart sink. Marcus Sullivan had done this before. Not once, not twice, 12 times in 5 years. All of his victims were black. And somehow, every single complaint against him had been dismissed or buried. Judge Williams leaned back in her chair, her jaw tight. She thought about all those people who had been hurt, humiliated, and then ignored when they asked for help, people who thought the system didn't care about them. And you know what? They were right. The system had failed them. But Judge Williams wasn't the system. She was a person who believed in something bigger, real justice. She picked up her phone and made a call. Detective Carter, this is Judge Amar Williams. I need to report an assault and request a full investigation into Officer Marcus Sullivan. And Detective, this goes deeper than you think. Detective Lisa Carter had been investigating bad cops for 15 years. She thought she'd seen everything. But when she sat down across from Officer Marcus Sullivan in the small, gray interview room, something felt different. Something felt wrong. Marcus leaned back in his chair like he owned the place. His arms were crossed. His face showed no worry at all. So, Detective Carter began, opening her notebook. Tell me what happened this morning in the courthouse parking lot. Marcus shrugged. Some woman bumped into me. My coffee spilled. She got all angry and started yelling. I tried to calm her down, but she was acting crazy. Detective Carter wrote down his words, but her eyes never left his face. The woman was yelling at you? Oh, yeah, Marcus said, nodding. These courthouse workers, they think they're so important. They've got attitude problems, you know? Always try and cause trouble for officers. There it was, that phrase, these courthouse workers. The way he said these made Detective Carter's skin crawl. She'd heard that tone before, the tone people use when they're trying not to say what they really mean. And the coffee just spilled? Detective Carter asked. Accidents happen, Marcus said with a fake smile. Behind the one-way mirror, Officer Johnson sat with another detective. His leg bounced nervously. He looked sick. Johnson, the other detective said quietly, is that what you saw? Johnson's mouth opened, then closed. He wanted to tell the truth. He really did. But Marcus was his partner. And Marcus had friends in the department, powerful friends. I guess so, Johnson finally whispered, hating himself. Meanwhile, in her chambers, Judge Williams wasn't waiting for the investigation to move slowly. She was doing her own research. She pulled up the first complaint against Marcus Sullivan. Victim, Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins, age 67. Mrs. Jenkins had been carrying groceries home when Marcus stopped her for jaywalking. According to her complaint, Marcus had accidentally knocked her grocery bags to the ground. Eggs broke, milk spilled. An old woman had to pick up her food from the dirty sidewalk while Marcus stood there laughing. The complaint was dismissed. Insufficient evidence, the file said. Judge Williams felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept reading. Victim, Marcus Thompson, age 24. Young Marcus had been sitting in his car at a traffic stop when Officer Sullivan approached. According to the complaint, Sullivan poured his drink into the car window, soaking Marcus's clothes. Sullivan claimed it was an accident. The complaint was reduced to a written warning for Sullivan. Nothing more. Victim, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, age 35. Dr. Mitchell, a hospital doctor, had been pushed against her car during a parking lot stop. She said Sullivan used excessive force for no reason. Sullivan said she resisted. No action was taken. Judge Williams stared at her computer screen. 12 people, 12 black people, 12 complaints. 12 times the system said, this doesn't matter. But it did matter. She picked up her phone and started making calls. Detective Carter was good at her job because she didn't just listen to words. She listened to what people didn't say. And Marcus Sullivan wasn't saying a lot of things. She left the interview room and went straight to the security office. I need the footage from the courthouse parking lot this morning, 6 to 7 a.m. 20 minutes later, she sat in a dark room watching the video. There it was, clear as day, Marcus Sullivan deliberately stepping into the woman's path. Once, twice, blocking her on purpose. Then the coffee pour, slow, intentional, cruel. And then the woman's calm response. The tissue, the phone, the dignity. Detective Carter felt her jaw tighten. She'd seen assaults before, but there was something especially ugly about this one. The pleasure on Marcus's face. The way he enjoyed hurting someone who hadn't done anything to him. She picked up her phone. I need to speak with Dr. Michael Torres immediately. Tell him it's about what he witnessed this morning. Dr. Torres arrived at the police station within an hour. His hands were still shaking as he sat down with Detective Carter. I saw everything, he said before she could even ask a question. I was getting out of my car. The officer, he blocked her path deliberately. It wasn't an accident. He poured that coffee on her like he wanted to hurt her, to humiliate her. Did you hear what he said? Detective Carter asked. Dr. Torres closed his eyes, remembering. He called her courthouse trash, and he laughed when she asked for his badge number. He told her complaints against him always go in the trash. Detective Carter stopped writing. He said that? That complaints against him get thrown away. Word for word, Dr. Torres confirmed, like he knew he was protected. And that's when Detective Carter realized this wasn't just about one bad morning. This was about a system that had been protecting a bad cop for years. She needed more evidence. It took Detective Carter 3 days, but she found it. Marcus Sullivan was stupid enough to text his friends about what he did. The messages made her sick. Taught another one a lesson today. These people need to learn respect. My badge is better than a shield. It's invisible armor, LOL. There were more, worse ones. Messages full of hate and pride about using his power to hurt people who couldn't fight back. Detective Carter printed every single message. Then she went back to Officer Johnson. Johnson, she said, sitting across from him, I know you lied, and I know why, but those messages, Sullivan isn't protecting you. He's bragging about what he did. He thinks he's untouchable. Johnson's hands trembled. If I tell the truth, my career's over. If you keep lying, Detective Carter said gently, your soul is gone. Those 12 people, they were real. They had families. They had dignity. And the system failed them because people like you stayed quiet. Officer Johnson put his face in his hands. When he looked up, tears were in his eyes. It wasn't an accident, he finally said. Marcus planned it. He saw her walking, said something about putting her in her place. And then he did it. I should have stopped him. God, I should have stopped him. You're stopping him now, Detective Carter said. 1 week after the coffee incident, Detective Carter brought her findings to Chief Morrison. She laid out everything. The video footage, Dr. Torres' testimony, Johnson's confession, the text messages, and the 12 previous complaints that were ignored. Chief Morrison looked at the evidence for a long time. His face was pale. How did we let this happen? He whispered. Because the system protected him instead of the people he hurt, Detective Carter answered. But we can fix it now. We can do the right thing. Chief Morrison nodded slowly. File federal charges. Civil rights violations. Let's make sure this never happens again. Marcus Sullivan was sitting in his living room, eating dinner and watching TV. When the knock came, he opened the door with a smile, expecting a friend. Instead, he saw Detective Carter with 2 federal agents. Marcus Sullivan. One agent said, You're under arrest for civil rights violations under federal law. The smile disappeared from Marcus's face. Wait, what? For what? For assaulting Judge Amara Williams and for a pattern of racially motivated attacks against civilians, Detective Carter said, and she felt satisfaction saying those words. Judge. Marcus's face went white. What judge? That woman was just. Just what? Detective Carter interrupted. Just black? Just someone you thought didn't matter? She's a federal judge, Marcus. and you're going to face federal charges. As the agents put handcuffs on his wrists, Marcus finally understood. He had made the biggest mistake of his life. Marcus Sullivan walked into the federal courthouse wearing his best suit. His lawyer had told him to look respectful, professional, humble. Federal judges don't play games, his lawyer warned. You need to show remorse. But Marcus wasn't worried. Not really. He'd been to court before for other complaints. Those cases always got dismissed. Judges always sided with cops. That's just how the world worked. We'll probably get this thrown out today, Marcus whispered to his lawyer as they walked through the metal detectors. His lawyer didn't answer. He just looked nervous. They walked down the long hallway toward courtroom 6. Marcus's shoes clicked on the marble floor. Everything smelled like old wood and important papers. All rise, the bailiff announced as they entered. The Honorable Judge Amara Williams presiding. Marcus stood up automatically, barely paying attention. He was thinking about what he'd have for lunch after this was over. Maybe pizza. Maybe. Then he saw her. Walking through the door behind the bench, wearing black robes, was the woman from the parking lot. The woman he'd poured coffee on. The woman he'd called courthouse trash. Marcus's heart stopped. His mouth fell open. His legs felt weak. No, he thought. No, this can't be happening. Judge Amara Williams sat down at the bench. She arranged her papers calmly, just like she'd wiped the coffee from her face that morning, with complete control and dignity. Then she looked up. Her eyes met Marcus's eyes. And in that moment, Marcus Sullivan finally understood what real power looked like. Mr. Sullivan, Judge Williams said, her voice clear and strong. Do you recognize me? Marcus's lawyer nudged him. Answer the judge, he hissed. Yes, Marcus whispered. His voice cracked. Speak up, please, Judge Williams said. Not me, not angry, just firm. Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said louder. His whole body was shaking now. Good, Judge Williams said. Then you understand the serious nature of why we're here today. You stand accused of violating my civil rights and the civil rights of 12 other citizens. How do you plead? Marcus's lawyer stood up quickly. Your Honor, we request that you recuse yourself from this case due to conflict of interest. You are the victim and cannot be an impartial judge. Judge Williams nodded. You're absolutely right, Counselor. I will be recusing myself. But before I do, I want to say something. She looked directly at Marcus. Officer Sullivan, when you poured coffee on me, you didn't know I was a judge. You just knew I was a black woman walking into a courthouse. And that was enough for you to decide I deserved to be humiliated. Marcus tried to speak, but no words came out. You told me my complaint would go straight into the trash, Judge Williams continued. You said your badge protected you. You believed you were untouchable because you'd gotten away with hurting people 12 times before. She paused, letting her words sink in. But here's what you didn't understand, Officer Sullivan. Justice isn't about who wears a badge or who wears a robe. Justice is about treating every single person with dignity and respect. And when you fail to do that, when you use your power to hurt instead of protect, you're not a police officer anymore. You're just a bully with a uniform. The courtroom was completely silent. Even the lawyers didn't move. This case will be tried by Judge Roberto Martinez, Judge Williams said, and I trust that justice will be served. Court is adjourned. She stood up and walked out of the courtroom with her head high. Marcus sat down hard in his chair. His face was gray. His hands were shaking. For the first time in his life, he was truly afraid. 3 weeks later, the trial began. Judge Roberto Martinez was known as a fair but tough judge. He didn't smile much. He didn't tolerate nonsense. The prosecutor, Sarah Carter, Detective Carter's sister, stood up to present the case. Your Honor, she began, this isn't just about one cup of coffee. This is about a pattern of hatred, abuse, and violence that lasted 5 years. She pressed a button, and the security footage appeared on a big screen. Everyone in the courtroom watched Marcus deliberately block Judge Williams' path. They watched him pour the coffee. They heard him say, courthouse trash. Some people in the audience gasped. Then Sarah Carter showed the text messages. Marcus's words appeared on the screen for everyone to read. Taught another one a lesson today. These people need to learn respect. The jury members looked disgusted. And now, Sarah Carter said, I'd like to call our witnesses. One by one, Marcus's other victims came forward. Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins, now 67 years old, walked slowly to the witness stand with her cane. He knocked my groceries down, she said in a quiet voice. My eggs broke, my milk spilled, and he just laughed at me. I cried, picking up my food from the ground while he watched. She wiped tears from her eyes. I filed a complaint, but nobody cared. I thought maybe I didn't matter because I'm old and black. You matter, Mrs. Jenkins, Sarah Carter said gently. You've always mattered. Next came Marcus Thompson, the young man who'd had a drink poured in his car. I was 24, he said. I'd just graduated college. I was so proud, driving my first car, and he poured his drink all over me for no reason, just because he could. Then Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the hospital doctor. I save lives every day, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. But that day, I felt powerless. He pushed me against my car, so hard I had bruises for weeks. And when I reported it, they said I was the problem. Each story was different, but they all had the same theme. Marcus Sullivan enjoyed hurting people who couldn't fight back. Marcus's lawyer tried his best. These were isolated incidents, he argued. Mistakes made in stressful situations. My client is not a racist. He's a dedicated officer who... Stop, Judge Martinez interrupted. I've heard enough. He looked at Marcus with cold eyes. Mr. Sullivan, I've been a judge for 30 years. I've seen many types of people in this courtroom, but I've rarely seen someone who so clearly abused their power for personal satisfaction. Judge Martinez shuffled through his papers. The evidence against you is overwhelming. The security footage, the text messages, the witness testimonies, your own partner's confession. Everything points to a deliberate pattern of racial hatred and violence. Marcus's lawyer put his hand on Marcus's shoulder, but Marcus barely felt it. He was numb. Therefore, Judge Martinez continued, I find you guilty on all charges of civil rights violations under federal law, Title 18, Section 242. The courtroom erupted in gasps and whispers. You are sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. Judge Martinez said firmly, you will forfeit all pension benefits, and you are permanently banned from ever working in law enforcement again in any capacity. He banged his gavel once. Additionally, I am recommending a full federal investigation into how your department handled these 12 complaints. Someone protected you, Mr. Sullivan, and they will answer for that too. Marcus felt his world collapse. 3 years. No pension. No job. No future in the career he thought made him powerful. As the bailiffs came to take him away, Marcus looked back at the courtroom. Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins was crying, but these were different tears. Relief. Justice. Marcus Thompson was hugging Dr. Sarah Mitchell. They were smiling. And in the back row, Judge Amara Williams sat quietly, watching. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She just nodded once, a small acknowledgement that the system, this time, had worked. 6 months later, the coffee shop near the courthouse created a special blend called Justice Coffee. All the money from its sales went to helping people who couldn't afford lawyers. Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins became an advocate for elderly people's rights. She gave speeches at community centers, teaching older citizens that they mattered and deserved respect. Marcus Thompson started an organization called Badge Accountability. It helped people file complaints against police officers who abused their power. He made sure every complaint was taken seriously. Dr. Sarah Mitchell testified before Congress about racial profiling and police violence. Her words helped change laws in 3 states. The police department created a civilian oversight board. They started mandatory training about racial bias, and they investigated every old complaint that had been dismissed. Chief Morrison publicly apologized to all 12 victims. We failed you, he said at a press conference. We chose to protect a bad officer instead of protecting good people. That will never happen again. And Judge Amara Williams? She kept working, kept fighting for justice every single day. But she kept something special in her office, the coffee-stained coat from that morning. She never had it cleaned. It hung in her closet as a reminder that justice doesn't care about titles or robes or badges. Justice cares about truth. And sometimes the people who seem powerless are actually the most powerful of all. 3 years later, Marcus Sullivan walked out of federal prison. He was older now, grayer. His eyes looked tired and sad. He tried to find work, but no one wanted to hire a former cop who'd been convicted of civil rights violations. Every door closed in his face. One afternoon, he sat alone in a park, watching people walk by. He saw a black woman pushing a stroller, a black man jogging, a black teenager laughing with friends. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Sullivan really saw them, not as threats, not as people to control, but as human beings who deserved respect and dignity, just like everyone else. It had taken losing everything for him to learn what he should have known all along. The badge didn't make him powerful. Treating people with kindness, that's what made someone truly strong. Marcus pulled out his phone and typed an email to Judge Amar Williams. Your Honor, I know sorry is enough, but I'm sorry. You tried to teach me something that morning, and I was too blind to see it. Thank you for not letting me get away with it. Thank you for believing that justice matters more than protection. I hope someday I can prove I've changed. He hit send, not expecting a response. But that night, his phone buzzed with a reply. Mr. Sullivan, justice is about accountability, not revenge. Use your experience to help others learn. That's how you prove you've changed. Judge A. Williams. Marcus read the message 3 times. Then he started researching programs where he could speak to young police officers about the mistakes he'd made. Maybe, just maybe, he could stop someone else from becoming what he used to be. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Justice isn't about power. It's about treating every person with dignity. Hit the like button. Subscribe for more powerful true stories. And remember, we all have the power to choose kindness over cruelty. What would you have done in Judge Williams' situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.